Well, it's almost time for Christmas, that special time of the year where you become in debt for buying presents you couldn't afford, and then you spend the rest of the day eating so much food it makes you want to throw up and drinking an unhealthy amount of booze. Merry Christmas, everybody. Ho, ho, ho. And when I think Christmas, I think of some of my favourite films to watch around this time of the year. So today we're going to take a look at one of my personal favourite Christmas films. So let's get stuck in, because if you had questions like what sort of references are there to other movies in this film? What animal did the filmmakers try and use as a gremlin? Trust me, you're going to want to hear about this one. And oh, would you look at that, it's number 1. So, Gremlins is a 1984 comedy horror film written by Chris Columbus and directed by Joe Dante. The story follows Billy Peltzer, played by Zach Galligan, who receives a strange but insanely adorable creature called a mogwai by his father, who got it from a stereotypical Asian man. But let's not focus on that. Eventually, the mogwai named Gizmo spawns several other creatures called Gremlins. These Gremlins are chaotic, destructive, evil little monsters that eventually cause chaos in the little town they're in. They're just little fuckers. Number 2. The notion of Gremlins, the creature, not the movie, was first conceived during World War II when mechanical failures in RAF aircraft were jokingly blamed on these small creatures. The term Gremlins also entered popular culture as children's author Roald Dahl published a book called The Gremlins in 1943. Joe Dante has said that he had read this book and that it had some influence on his film. As stated earlier, Chris Columbus had written the story for this film. He had originally written the story as just a spec script to show potential employers that he had writing abilities, and the story was never really intended to be filmed until a certain Mr. Spielberg, yeah, that one, came along and took interest in turning this story into a film. The script went through several versions before a final version was finalized. The first real draft was reportedly much darker than the final film. Various scenes were cut, including one in which Billy's mother dies during her struggle with the Gremlins, with her fucking head being thrown down the stairs when Billy arrives. Some other cutscenes included a scene in which the Gremlins eat Billy's dog, and where the Gremlins are seen in McDonald's eating the customers instead of the food. Ooh, it's number 3. When it came to bringing these Gremlins to life, a few techniques were used. One of them, and I'm not lying here, included having real-life actual monkeys play the roles of the Gremlins and having them dress up in Gremlin suits. Yeah, let that image sink in. This of course did not work, as the monkeys panicked when made to wear a gremlin head, so it was down to puppetry in order to create these gremlins on screen. These puppets however had a lot of limitations, one of which included the Gizmo puppet that continued to break down due to its small size. Joe Dante insisted on keeping Gizmo small as he believed that would make him much more cuter to the audience. This however annoyed the crew as they had to continuously fix Gizmo, so to please the crew a scene was included in which the Gremlins are essentially torturing Gizmo. This was included on a list that the crew created, known to them as the horrible things to do to Gizmo list. You sadistic bastards. Oh, number 4. So Chris Columbus founded America or something, and oh wait, that's the wrong one. So Chris Columbus wrote the script for Gremlins. Columbus is also known for directing many classic films including Home Alone, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, also known as Home Alone 2, I can't believe we fucking forgot Macaulay Culkin again, we are terrible parents, Mrs. Doubtfire, the first 2 Harry Potter films, and the Percy Jackson films, and is set to direct a live-action movie of the video game Five Nights at Freddy's. I got 5 on it. Oh, copyright strike. Gremlins amazingly was released the same day as another classic film, Ghostbusters. Both films were starting a new trend that was developing in the 80s, which was horror comedies. Some of those included Evil Dead 2, An American Werewolf in London, and Fright Night. Oh, don't believe it, it's number 6. Now if you've seen Gremlins, and if you haven't, why are you watching this? Then you may remember a certain speech that was given by Kate. You know, this one.
I was 9 years old. Me and Mom were decorating the tree, waiting for Dad to come home from work. A couple hours went by. Dad wasn't home. Mom called the office. No answer. Christmas Day came and went, and still nothing. So the police began a search. 4 or 5 days went by. Neither one of us could eat or sleep. Everything was falling apart. It was snowing outside. The house was freezing, so I went to try to light up the fire. And that's when I noticed the smell. The firemen came and broke through the chimney top. And me and Mom were expecting them to pull out a dead cat or a bird. And instead they pulled out my father. He was dressed in a Santa Claus suit. He'd been climbing down the chimney on Christmas Eve, his arms loaded with presents. He was going to surprise us. He slipped and broke his neck. Died instantly.
Bitch, are you for real?
Well, that speech proved to be very controversial with studio executives who insisted upon its removal because they felt it was too ambiguous as to if it was supposed to be funny or sad or whatever. Joe Dante, however, was stubborn on this and refused to take the scene out, saying it represented the film as a whole, which had a combination of horrific and comedic elements. Spielberg also did not like this scene but viewed this film as Joe Dante's film and allowed him to leave it in. This scene would be parodied in the batshit crazy sequel that was Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Number 7, baby. Number 7. Gremlins, along with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, influenced the Gremlins, along with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, influenced the MPAA to create a whole new rating for films, that being PG-13, with Red Dawn being the first film released in theatres that was given this new rating. The scene in which a gremlin explodes in the microwave was particularly influential to the idea that some films too light to be rated R are still too mature to be rated PG. This new rating meant that filmmakers could now push their films in terms of content without being too explicit. You wanna know a secret? It's number 8. If you grew up in the 90s like me, then you'll probably remember these guys. Furbies took inspiration from Gizmo directly when designing their toys. Good heavens, number 9. This movie is packed with references to other films, so let's take a look at some of them now. I don't know why I sung that. The set of Kingston Falls is the same one used for Back to the Future. The scene in which that little fucker Stripe attacks Billy with a chainsaw is a reference to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. At the start of the film, the cinema or movie theatre is playing 2 films, one titled A Boy's Life and another titled Watch the Skies. These were the working titles for both Spielberg's E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Speaking of E.T., one of the Gremlins referenced a line from that film, that being phone home. The time machine prop from, the time machine, released in 1960, can be seen behind Randall Peltzer when he's on the phone with his wife while attending a convention. Moments later, the time machine has vanished. Also attended that convention were Steven Spielberg and Jerry Goldsmith. In the bar scene, a gremlin can be seen playing a video game of Star Wars. There's a rolled up movie poster for the Twilight Zone movie in one scene, which both Joe Dante and Spielberg had directed segments of. There's a subtle reference to Joe Dante's film The Howling, a poster for Mad Max 2 can be seen at one point, and of course we see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs being watched on the big screen by the Gremlins. I say, old chap, it's number 10. Overall, Gremlins did well at the box office and its release. By the end of its American run in theatres in November, it had managed to gross nearly $150 million. But like anything in life, there's always going to be people who moan about something. Audience members complained about some of the violence used in the movie as they had brought their children along and soon walked out of the cinema. But you know what? Fuck them. Gremlins managed to spawn merchandise in the form of toys, video games, clothing, and even a novel along with a bunch of other items because money. The film managed to spawn a fucking crazy and just downright beautiful sequel, Gremlins 2 The New Batch, also directed by Joe Dante, who has stated that he prefers that film to the first. Warner Bros. Has also commissioned an animated show of Gremlins called Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai. A third sequel to the series has been in the works for some time now, though it appears to be currently in development hell with no actual sign of it going to production just yet. Well, there you go, 10 facts about Gremlins. So what are your thoughts on this film? Is there anything about this movie that you can tell me? Let me know down in the bloody comments. And if you like this and you want to see more, then why not check out our other film facts videos? They cover both film and TV. And if you want to help support me and the channel and you don't want to miss out on anything that happens on here, then please do consider subscribing and hitting the bell thingy to stay notified. And of course, do the like and share business if that's your cup of tea. It really does help us out a lot. But thanks for watching, guys.